Aiming on controller in Apex Legends is actually significantly difficult. So how are you supposed to practice if you don't have an aim trainer like R5 Reloaded, because maybe you play on console and you don't have a $4,000 computer like some of the Apex pros? And as well, I'm not just going to be giving you a flawless guide on how to actually practice different ways of aiming, but I'm also going to be giving you some insane methods to help you hit shots more consistently and a lot more naturally. Now let's hop into it. Now, by far, the biggest issue that I see players make, whether I'm coaching them on stream or off stream, whether you guys see it in the YouTube videos or not, is getting to their target. Players on controller have an insane issue snapping into the direction that a target is, or in general, going from one spot to the next consistently. Now, the way that we're going to be practicing this is not by going in a straight line like you see right here, because as you can see, I can kind of hit those pretty consistently, and that's honestly my first try, just barely looking at the targets, hitting a fair decent amount of perfect shots in the center. We're not going to be going side to side like this, because it's just a straight line and there's no variables, there's no inconsistency with the direction that we're going to be moving. Instead, what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to go from middle target to the outside targets, and we're going to be going in a variations of left and right movements and small, medium, and large movements like you see here. This is going to give you significantly more options. Practicing this drill like this is going to help you get more comfortable making small, medium, large movements, as well as vertical, horizontal, and diagonal movements with your thumbsticks. Now, as well, we're not going to practice doing this drill stationary the entire time. What we're also going to do is a variation of different movements with our left thumbstick. One of those movements that we're going to be making is mirrored movements, as well as counter movements. Now, mirrored movements are kind of what it sounds like. We're going to be mirroring our left and right stick so that no matter which direction one stick is moving, the other stick is moving in the same direction. This is going to help make sure that your right thumb, your aiming thumb, doesn't have to make major movements. It's going to take a lot of that work away from your right thumb and move it on over to your left thumb. What that looks like is instead of going like that, we're instead going to go like this. Now, what a lot of people end up doing here is they end up freaking out and prematurely moving their thumb. Just remember, both of your thumbs are making the exact same movements. And the other movement, like we briefly mentioned before, is counter movements. Every time that we change targets, we're going to move in the opposite direction that our thumbs are going. So if my right thumb is moving over to the left, my left thumb is moving over to the right. This one can be a little bit tough because it does require some hand-eye coordination. It's kind of like tapping your head while rubbing your stomach. It feels really weird at first, but as you continue to practice this, this is going to help lead you into the ability to aim smooth more consistently. We'll talk about aim smoothing a little bit further into the video. Now as well, once we are comfortable making these moves like this, what we then want to start doing is practicing these movements from cover and popping out so that we can quickly snap over to that next target. So just like before, as we kind of pop out of cover, we're going to snap over into the middle, uncrouch, snap over, uncrouch, snap over. And we're going to practice doing this so that we can start building not just, again, hand-eye coordination going from one target to the next, but also building in some movement mechanics that's going to get us comfortable peeking in and out of cover. Earlier, I mentioned one of the biggest issues that people have is getting from where they're looking to where their target actually is. And on top of that, another major issue that people have is overextending out of their cover and over-challenging players, standing in the open too long and shooting their guns. As we get really comfortable making sure that we can one snap from target to target, and we start adding in the ability to quickly come out of cover, snap over, come out of cover, snap over. Now what we're doing is we're also reducing the amount of time that we're in the open, which is going to help keep our health up. And because we're getting such good skills snapping over to where the person is, we're also going to be practicing bringing their health down significantly more. As you can probably assume, this is going to help you tremendously in your gunfights, making sure that when you're ready to go push, you're going to have the health that you need to actually actually do that push. Now, moving away from flicking over to targets and acquiring targets, and now moving over to actually staying on target once we've got to that individual. There's actually 3 different ways that we're going to be practicing staying on target. One of those is going to be mirror strafing. Just like before when we were mirroring our thumb movements, instead of mirroring both of our thumbs, what we're now going to be doing is mirroring what the individual in front of us is doing. If they're strafing off to the left, we're going to copy that movement. If they're strafing off to the right, we're also going to be copying that movement. Now, for the sake of this entire video, I've actually been playing with my aim assist turned off, and it's going to stay off just to show you how effective all of these different aim routines and aiming methods are. Now, like I said, we are going to want to practice staying on target by copying the direction that the opponent is strafing. Now, this is most effective when we take our fights up close, face to face. This does indeed work pretty well when we are fighting at a distance. As you can kind of see here, I really only need to focus on pulling my stick down so that I stay shooting chest level. But the further that you are, it is a little bit harder to make those really fine corrections so that you can stay on target, especially when you start controlling recoil. Again, this method is best used up close. The way that you're going to want to be using this is as you bring people's shields down, you're going to want to swing up on top of people so that you can practice locking on and really guaranteeing a lot of massive damage being put in. Now, our tracking method number 2, again, really similar to when we're flicking over from target to target, we're also going to practice counter strafing. This is the exact opposite of mirroring, where we're copying someone, and instead we're going to be going in the opposite direction that the opponent is moving. The reason why we want to really practice this is because as we are pulling our right thumbstick out to the left or out to the right, what you'll notice is when you're shooting, there is very, very little vertical recoil, if not any. This is going to help you when you're fighting up close to hit absolute massive laser beams. This is particularly useful when we're fighting in cover or in general up close and at medium to long ranges, because it's going to help you keep your shot nice and level and at the same time make it harder for your opponent to hit you because you are strafing in the opposite direction that they are, forcing them to pull their stick a little bit harder. Now, this third method of practicing staying on target is honestly very simple. You're probably already doing it. All we're going to be doing is we're going to be standing still and we're going to be practicing keeping our cursor on the randomly strafing dummy as it makes its movements. Now, this is very basic. The way that we can actually kick this up a notch is by heading over to this target right here. What you're going to want to do from here is make sure that you hop onto this moving blue target, and we're going to be focusing on the dummies spawning in this general area. Make sure to head on over into your firing range settings and change the dynamic spawn distance to on, and as well, make sure that you set the spawn distance to close. This is going to make sure that you have lots of dummies spawning relatively close to you, whether it's behind you, over here on these platforms, or in this general area. And if they don't seem to be spawning in like this, what you can make sure you do is hit refresh or spawn new dummies to get those new dummies in that area. From here, again, especially without aim assist, we're going to be practicing shooting and tracking these dummies while we are on this moving target. This way, we have something that isn't us actually moving. The movement feels a little bit more random on top of the randomly strafing dummies. If you are finding that you can consistently be hitting shots while on the moving target, what you can then do is actually scroll on up and change the target speed from crouch walk to walk, run, or zip line, making it extremely hard to stay on target, as you can see. Honestly, if you can one clip this dummy right here on red shield with a gold mag flatline without aim assist, I will send you $100. Now, for the next set of aim training that you're going to want to be doing is coming on over into this courtyard over here. Not only is there a zip line, but there's tons of different elevation levels. For instance, you're going to have dummies spawning on top of this platform on the same level as you right here. You might have some people over here. Sometimes we even get them over here on the roof or on the insides of these buildings. And here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be combining movement mechanics on top of aim training, whether it's flicking or whether it's tracking. There's 2 main drills that we're going to be practicing. One is going to be super jumping and flicking, and the other is going to be wall jumping and flicking. Now, for those of you who don't know what super jumping is, a super jump is basically when we interact and double jump off of a zip line, and as you can see, it will absolutely launch you. The reason why we want to practice this mechanic is, one, it's going to give you the opportunity to jump super high into the air while making sure that you're trying to flick on over to the individual that you're fighting. And we're also going to want to practice hitting our wall jumps because same thing. We want to get comfortable hitting these different movement mechanics while still being able to bring ourselves over to the individual that we're fighting. Now, personally, these drills right here work best with single shot guns, whether it's a sentinel, a wingman, a mastiff, a peacekeeper, or if you really want, you can really try to test yourself and try with an automatic weapon. These here are definitely going to be a lot harder because the the spray is a lot less predictable compared to something like a Mastiff where the spray is pretty consistent. Now, when talking about wall jump pushing or wall jump practicing with our Mastiff, there's a couple different wall jumps that we specifically want to practice. One of those is the slide jump wall jump. The slide jump wall jump is the traditional wall jump where we slide jump into the wall, pop off, and that will throw us into different directions. We want to practice using this mechanic to push forward while shooting. And we also want to practice using this mechanic to push away from dummies while shooting. The next wall jump is the fatigue wall jump. The fatigue wall jump doesn't require any type of slide jump, so you can do it basically from a standstill like this, and it is primarily used to pop straight up into the air. This drill is particularly important when you have someone who's playing above you and you don't want to climb up and that holsters your weapon to the point that you can't shoot. This as well is going to give you really great flicking practice. And then on top of the fatigue wall jump, the last wall jump or wall mechanic that we're going to want to practice integrating into our shooting drills is going to be the wall push. The wall push is kind of like a combination of the fatigue wall jump and the slide jump wall jump. Rather, we're not going to pop straight up into the air, and instead we're actually going to push backwards and into the ground. What this basically looks like is we're going to jump into the wall, jump off, and instead of popping into the air, it will push us down and into the ground. You're going to want to make sure that you hold crouch and slide out of this. And with that slide backwards, we can use that to either, one, push away from the dummy that we're shooting, or two, we can use it to push sideways, or we can use it to push into the dummy that we're sliding. Push away from the dummy, or we can push into the dummy. Now, something that is honestly really unfortunate, but at the same time is super important to understand, is that your controller does actually matter. A lot of the people who I coach do end up playing on a default controller, and it's not that it's the end of the world, but as you might have noticed inside the last couple drills that we had, there is a lot of moving around and shooting your gun, which means that every single time that you go to remove your thumb to hit jump or hit crouch or swap your weapons, you're taking your thumbs off of your sticks, which means that you can't properly and accurately aim at your target. Now, this is also the same for a whole bunch of different type of movement techniques, whether you're trying to bunny hop or super jump or super glide. A lot of the time you're going to have to make lots of really quick one after another inputs, which can be super hard on a default controller. That's why we actually partnered with AIM Controllers. AIM Controllers is by far the best controller company that you could ever play with. For starters, they actually have a lifetime warranty on their controllers, which means that if your swappable thumbsticks break, it's all good. You can swap that out perfectly for free. As well, their 4 back paddle system is the best that I have ever played with. And I've played with Scuff, Elite Series 2, GameNetics, Cinch Gaming. I have played with countless controllers. This is by far the smoothest, most responsive, and best feeling paddles that I have ever played with. Now, personally, I'm not much of a PlayStation kind of controller guy. I've always preferred the Xbox controllers purely because they fit and they feel way better in the hands. But again, I also have tiny little girl hands. Maybe you got big hands and the PlayStation controller is your jam. It's just personally not mine. If you are interested in checking out an AIM controller, there is a link in the description down below to help you save some money on your custom controller. As well, there is some insanely cool stuff coming to AIM really soon. I'm not allowed to talk about it just yet, but do stay tuned because it is going to be game changing. Now, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Not only does it help you out tremendously because YouTube is going to keep showing you videos like this one right here, but it also helps me out a whole bunch. It tells YouTube that other people should see these videos, and that way we can continue to make these types of videos for all of you guys here on the channel. Now remember guys, don't quit because it's only going to get easier from here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.